Hello everyone and welcome back to Mossy Pine Ranch at Elmcreek. We have reached episode number 6 and we have crossed the new year into January. As you can see, this morning I was out there giving the horses their ride training, so they are all up to scratch now, and yet got daily riding at 100% and their fitness has gone into 25%. So yeah, looked to add 25% from the daily horse ride training we gave them last month, and I've given them all a clean, so they're up to 100% cleanliness. Now, in my last session I did get a comment that we left Chestnut behind, but Chestnut was indeed this type of horse, and yeah, it seems as though my follower Green Tea wanted me to rename Inca to the type of horse it is, so I'm going to rename this one Chestnut, just to keep Green Tea happy. There we go, Chestnut. So there we go, Green Tea thought we left Chestnut behind, but in fact we'd got our Chestnut horse Inca, which we've now renamed to Chestnut. Green Tea has also started a map creation series on his channel. So if you haven't seen that on my Discord or community tab, please do go check that out. He's building or recreating an area that is dear to him, and it's looking pretty good so far. So it's quite interesting to see a map build occurring in FS22. Right, on to today's plan, and yes, we are going to be on to some field prep. We have the areas 1 and the grass meadow, and then field 2 and 3 with a little space down here, which we are going to have to prep. So they need ploughing, turning over. The crop that was harvested from them is in there. There's a few weeds sprouting up as well, and then there's some expansion to go on around the fields. So field 2 is going to merge into field 3 and then all the way up to the border's edge here. So we will be seeing to that. And then field number 1, we are going to actually expand to where we mowed the grass in a previous session. So yep, this field number 1 is going to expand to this whole area which was mown and is showing the primary level of fertilization. So I'm going to need the case tractor and the subsoiler. So I'm going to go grab that and get started with some of our field merging and expansion. But this means we're going to have some jobs that follow on afterwards. We are indeed going to have to stone collect again, so I will have to rent the stone collector, and we are also going to need to lime and fertilize each of the fields so they are ready. My plan is that field 1 and the meadow area I am going to seed with grass. We can't seed any crop at the moment due to it being January, so we're just going to get the fields prepped and then keep them ready for when we can seed. And I think we can seed grass in February or March. Let's take a quick look. So it's from March time where we can seed grass, and then we've also got some other crop types available to us, which yeah, we will put in field 2 and 3, which we merge together. So I'm going to get started with field 2 and 3 merging into 1, and then I'll move on to field 1 and the grass meadow. Let's just start up the top here, and I'll do what I normally do, which is go around the border of the field to just try and get a understanding of the size. So let's allow create fields, layer away, and start doing some driving. And as you can see, the heavy stones are coming up, so we will of course need the stone picker. I'll try and keep a bit of a border but reclaim as much land as possible. Oh yeah, some big stones coming up. Going to cross the path here so we merge field 2 into 3, but follow this path round our rather nice new equipment shed. Now I've got to be careful as I get up here. There is going to be a land boundary, so I'm going to try and identify it as best as possible. I think it's as we hit this curve here, so I'm not going to take too many chances. I'll turn over this way. There might be a bit of a gap, but I'd rather there be a bit of space. There we go. Right, let's make another turn here and head back up to the farm. So when we look at it, we're actually expanding the field quite a bit around every edge and merging the two into one, so making use of this, what is currently a track and path. And then after we've done this, we'll be moving over to field 1 and the meadow to get that created into a field. Now I was debating whether to create that into a field. I could have just turned the landscape into grass, but my feeling is it would be best to have it as a field so we can lime it, fertilise it and get the best possible yield out of the grass. So here is one complete loop. Let's lift that up, and there's just a little bit here to expand. But yeah, that is looking pretty good. So I'm going to do second headland, and I'll probably keep going around headlands until it makes sense to start doing some rows. So leave that with me, and I'll see you when we're done. And there we are. We have finished merging field 2 into 3. And we have gone over this path here and ploughed all the way up to the sort of border of our land ownership up there. Now that area is a little bit hilly, but don't mind that so much. Could have smoothed it over, but I think it adds a bit of character. Cool, I don't need to put the plough away because we're going to have to move over straight away to field number 1 and the meadow. Now, I have found something out whilst ploughing. It seems like the areas I've ploughed that are not currently fields, they have drawn up the large and bigger bits of stone. So yeah, the road here and then the edges where there was no field, we can see there's really large stone. But in the centre of the field, where it was already a ploughed field, the stones are very small. So yeah, I guess that makes sense. Where we haven't ploughed before, we're dragging up very large stones, and where we have already got fields that we're just ploughing over to make the same ground state, the stones are smaller and can probably just be rolled in. But yeah, we're going to come along with the stone collector once we have finished up with field 1 and the meadow first. So yeah, it is the same job, but straight on to field number 1 and the meadow. So let's lure away. And as mentioned, we'll have to come back, stone pick, and we'll also have to lime and fertilise. What we get round to today is debatable. Didn't take us too long, that field 2 and 3 merging into one. But this field 1 and the meadow area is quite large, so I'm not expecting that to be a quick job. I will be following the area which we mowed, as I mentioned before, as that area has received a primary level of fertiliser. Now I am going up quite a steep hill here, but we are going to be seeding in grass. We're not going to be putting a grain crop in here, so the harvest is not going to have to drag its way up here. I don't think you'd normally probably want to put a grain crop in here, as a combine might struggle. Yep, here we are. Going all the way down, looping around, and then we'll be cutting into what is field number 1, which has got harvested soybeans. So we're going to have some very interestingly shaped fields. I've definitely changed as I've played more Farming Simulator. I used to like more square fields, but now come to appreciate the more oddly shaped, more complicated fields to work around. Square fields with big borders are quite easy. You don't have to think about how you're going to set about the work. Whereas with the fields with more character in, you've got to give it a bit more thought and attention. I think, yeah, the field goes into where one of the telegraph poles is here, so I'm going to retexture that back to standard grassland, as I don't want to be doing work too close to that pole there. Alright, here we are coming round to one headland yet again, and I've followed the full edge of the area, and now we are off again. So you have to leave this with me once more, and I'll see you when we've got this all turned over. Ew. So just tidying up this little snail trail here, and we are done. Field 1 and the meadow all ploughed over and created into a nice field. So time to get the subsoiler dropped back off in the equipment shed, and as you can see there are a lot of stones in field 1 and the meadow, and also field 2 and 3. Now we can't cut across that path anymore, so we've got to go all the way around to the equipment shed. That's alright. The extra distance will be worth it for the yields we'll get from the bigger fields. So going to nip down here, drop the subsoiler off, and then we'll be over to the store to pick up our stone collector. Now I'm going to rent yet again the largest one available. We can run it with this tractor, but I'm going to be having to leave some piles of stones, as I don't want to be doing lots of trips over to the debris crusher. That's just not going to work for us. So yeah, we'll leave piles of stones, and then once we get a front loader or a telehandler, we can come along and scoop them up, put them in the trailer, and do one trip over to the debris crusher. Right, before we go any further, let's take a quick look at the map and see what the lay of the lands is. Okay, so this is the soil composition of both the fields that we've created. As you can see, there's a what looks like a pebble dashing here of all the stones. If we turn that off, we'll see that it definitely just needs a good liming, and yeah, pretty sure that some of the areas are primary fertilised, where we've turned the grass into the soil, but the actual field themselves will need a scatter of fertiliser as well. And after we've seeded, we can scatter fertiliser again to make sure it's all up to secondary levels. So let's get to the store and grab that stone collector. Okay, so we're going for the Scorpio 550 again, and if we lease it, I can see that post the update we get some more information around the base cost for leasing, the per work day and the per work hour charges. So 2,652 for us to lease this initially. Right, back at the farm with the stone picker. Let's get it unfolded, and I'll start by doing headlands like we did before. Switch it on and lower it, and then we'll start working our way around. I imagine it's going to fill up quite quickly, and we'll have to do some deposits, try and make some neat piles so we can come along and scoop them up once we've got a front loader. Okay, so that is one field done, and that was only 2 loads of stones, which is quite surprising. I recall when we did the grass field, which is probably a bit bigger than this, but nonetheless I feel like there were more stones, more material that came out the field. We had to dump probably 5 or 6 loads of stones compared to only 2 from that field, and it looked like there were quite a lot of stones, some small but quite a few big chunky ones. So yeah, I'm not sure if there's been a reduction in the stone material as part of the update, but suits us having less stones to pile and have to sort out. So we are stoning once again, but on this field over here. I'll try and do the same route as I ploughed, subsoiled to create the field. This is going to take a fair bit longer than the field prior, as it's a fair size bigger, this field, and I think it had more area that was not field before. Yeah, it certainly had more area that wasn't previously field, so we actually created more field space here than we did in fields 2 and 3, which we merged. So maybe that's the difference. There's less created field over there, more created field over here, already up to 18%. So I think we're going to have a fair few more piles of stone from this field than the other. That's okay. Plenty of space surrounding the field, so we can deposit it nearby, so we can keep rolling stones. Yep. So I'm going to carry on with this. I appreciate it's similar to what we had to do for this grass field, but it is work that needs to be done, and as we're in winter we need to prep the fields ready for us to seed when March comes along, springtime. So I'm going to carry on stoning, and I'll see you when we are finally done. And just like that, we are done. We have collected all these stones from field 1 grass meadow. There's just one little bit that I forgot here, so let's get that nabbed up, and then we can switch off, hold up, and just deposit this 3% over in this pile here. So we've got a couple of piles that we're going to have to come and clear later, because well, there's no because, it's just to tidy up. If we were to leave them, then maybe some archaeologist from the future might mistake them for some ancient burial grounds or something. Yep, we want to get them cleared away, and we can even earn some money from the debris crusher. So I'm going to pop the stone collector back to the store and then nip back to the farm, because I'd quite like to check on the chickens, see how many eggs they've produced. So let's do that. Right, returned the stone picker and driving back up to the farm. I'm really happy that we did plough up this field. It does look quite nice when it's ploughed up, and it will look even nicer once it's got the grass growing in it. So the plan is that obviously this field here, which was the first field that we projected, that is growing grass, and that will be ready in the spring. And once we harvest it, we will be good to seed grass in this field, and this will be our permanent grass meadow. And I feel like grass is probably the best for this field, as it's quite undulating, and if we keep permanent grass in there, we've always got a source of grass to make hay and silage. So that's going to be really, really useful, and because it's undulating, it doesn't really suit a grain crop as such. Whereas this field is nice and flat, got borders, so we could get a nice big yield of grain crop in there. So yeah, we'll swap grass from this field to that, and then replace this field once we've harvested the grass with a nice grain crop. Again, the grain crop is probably going to service our animals, so it's going to be wheat or barley for the chickens, or oats for the horses. And then of course we've got this field here, and it's smaller, but it's still not too small in you know, size wise. It's much bigger than it was in the two fields before it, so that is really good. And yeah, we're going to have three big fields to grow crops in. One will be grass, and then 2 for other crop types. So here are our horses, they're all good, I checked them earlier this morning. And here are our chickens. So let's just park up and take a little look at how they're doing. Oh, okay, so that pallet has filled up more so. And we've got an achievement there, 1 vehicle for all your needs. I think that's because we're using the same tractor. Must have got some mileage on that today. How much have we got? So, pallet has 788 pieces of eggs. And I think, when I checked the prices, eggs were selling for about £3,000 per 1,000 litres. Now it's quite hard to compare, because obviously the pallet stats talks about pieces here. I don't know whether that relates to litres, or whether that is there's an X amount of pieces to make up a certain amount of litres. So yeah, we'll have to just see when we take it to the sell point. But that is filling up quite nicely, and that's only 1 day, 1 month's worth. So yeah, I feel like we're going to get some good chicken egg proceeds. I think they are also breeding, as we've got roosters in there. Let's take a quick look at them. So I think I bought 120, so they haven't bred any yet, but they've reached 100% productivity, and the roosters have as well. So I'm hoping that we'll start to see some breeding going on. But they're of a good health, and oh yeah, reproduction has reached 50%, so we should hopefully see some chickens in the next day, next month, and they are looking good for their food. Brilliant. So that is it for today. Another sort of earlier afternoon finish, and that's because of the reduced light in the winter months. We will be moving into February next session, and that'll be the sort of last day we have where we can't seed, and we'll have to lime and fertilise the 2 fields that we ploughed and stone cleared today, and then we'll be ready to get our crops in March. And around March time we'll also be able to mow the grass field, and my plan is to make some silage out of that, as we've got plenty of hay for our horses in the stocks. But yep, that's it for today. Hope you've enjoyed watching. Big thank you for any views, likes and subscribes. If you've got any tips, tricks or things you'd like me to do, feel free to leave a comment. But all there's left to say is, hope you enjoyed watching, and I hope to see you again next time. Cheers all. Catch you later. Bye bye.